reach over. She's looking at young man working over here. Now, and what I will do with this horse is I will sit here a little bit, and I'm going to ask her, I'm going to shorten the reins, make contact with her mouth, and we're going to work for a few minutes on her giving to the bit. And I'm fixing to do that before we ever walk off. I don't want her walking off until I've asked for it. Now, I'm fixing to make contact. Good, she gives it a bit. And I turn loose. Now, this mare has done some bending. Okay. Somebody's done some flexion work on her, which is great. You know, you need to have that. But I have a pretty good idea that whoever did it used treats, you know, to bend the horse's head. And I'm going to use the treat that the good Lord gave me, and that's that hand right there on the end of my arm. And I'm going to touch this horse and touch her with some feel and stroke her in a way that she understands that, hey, that's what I wanted. That was what I wanted you to do. Now, as we're sitting here and just kind of relaxed, now I'm fixing to ask her to walk off. And you can see, because of the way that head was bent, this is the way we're going. Now, a lot of times when I'm working with people, I will ask them to do something, and I'll give them a specific order, and the very first thing that the human hears is pick up those reins. Okay? And so just about everybody thinks that in order to be able to accomplish something with this horse, you have to have that set of reins in your hands, and that's just not the case, you know, especially at this speed. And, you know, one of my pet peeves is to go somewhere and hear somebody say, get out of that horse's mouth, get out of that horse's mouth. Well, all the years that I've done this, one of the things that I've learned about people is you put a set of reins in their hands and they're going to use them whether they know how to use them properly or not. And so what I try and do through my horsemanship is I try and teach people how to get into this horse's mouth, accomplish what you would like to accomplish, and get out without leaving any tracks in this mind. You know, there's so many times that I go places that what I see is a horse that can't think forward because he's too busy watching this rider and watching what they're going to do with their hands. When I see that, well, then right away I know what kind of rider I'm dealing with. I know what kind of hands this person's got, because this horse is watching those hands instead of watching or moving forward. Now, so when you start doing with something and you start understanding, you know, how this relationship works, is that all this is my idea. Been doing it a long time. My stud was one of the finest trained horses in the world, and you know, he never went and got me a saddle. Never went and got the bridle. You know, so when you understand that everything that you're going to do is going to be your idea, well, then you understand that what your job is to know what you want to do and how you're going to communicate it to this horse. So before I ask a horse to move, I've already filed a flight plan up here. And so when you start doing that kind of stuff and start getting the horse to understand moving off of legs and yielding to things, and one of the things that you will never see me do is set up on a horse and seesaw. Okay? What I want this horse to do is figure this stuff out. Now, you watch this mare. When I picked up on those reins and she gave me that bit and I didn't turn them loose, it took her a second to figure out that she needed to step back. And then when she stepped back, I turned the reins loose. Now, one of the things about having this set of reins in your hands is just about everything that you're going to ever ask this horse to do, he has to move a foot in order to do it. But most people's lack of patience shows up, so they don't allow the horse to learn, what the cue is or what the response is before they try to get hurry. Well, if you'll take your time and allow the horse to figure some things out, hurry will come. Speed will always be there. You may have to, learn that when you allow the horse enough time to figure this stuff out, well, then you can start adding speed to things. Now, this mare needs to yield to this leg a little bit better. Now, what I'm fixing to do with these reins is I'm going to tip her nose to the left. I'm going to support with this right rein, and I'm fixing to ask her to step her leg over. Good. Now, the other thing is understanding that success is one step. When you get one step consistently and with ease, well, then you can go on to step number 2. When you get step number 1 and step number 2 consistently with ease, well, then go on to step number 3. Now, the other thing is learning to control the front shoulders and the hind quarters. There's times you want to control the front shoulders. There's times you want to control the hind quarters. And there's times that you would like to control everything equally. Now, I'm fixing to ask this mare to move her hind end over. Now, and the job of the reins was to keep her from taking forward steps. Now, as we get better and better at this, now I'm fixing to ask her to move this leg back, move that hind end back, and she's fixing to take a forward step, and I'm going to set my hands a little bit until we get that hip disengaged. Now, asking this mare to step back. Now, step over. Good. Now, let's make a right hand turn. Okay, set down. This is what I call doing the boogaloo. Now, step back. I want you to move your hip to the right. All right, and what we're getting is front end movement. Now, okay, then we got the hind end over. Now I'm fixing to ask her to move her hind end over to the left. Now, and what she's trying to do is do a diagonal or step over because we hadn't quite got that down pat, and what she felt like was that I was at her shoulder. Now, I'm fixing to ask her to step around. I'm going to sit down. Now step back, step back, step back. Now, move your hind end over. And that time we got it. Now, move your hind end over. And that time we got it. Now we're fixing to switch back to the opposite direction. And I'm going to move the right leg back a little bit and ask her to move her hind end over. Good. And as we get this kind of stuff, well then, it becomes better and better. Now, and understanding, you have in everything that you do with these reins, you have a direct rein, you have a support rein. Both reins have got a job. Sometimes their job is to be the direct rein, sometimes their job is to be the support rein. Okay? Same way with your legs. Okay? Sometimes you got a direct leg, sometimes you have a support leg. In other words, if I'm going to move this horse back, then I've got a direct leg. The right leg is moving back a little bit, and I'm having a little bit more trouble. All right, what she's getting, we'll step back. Then she got to step over and move your hind end over. Okay? Now, I'm fixing to ask her to move her hind end over. Good. Now, for just a second, she started to walk forward, and this right rein caught her. Okay? And she understood. Now, this mare needs a lot more work, a lot more diagonal work. Stepping sideways, stepping sideways, stepping sideways. You know. And this is one of the things that I like to do with a horse. You know, especially if you're out doing something real good like trail riding and what have you. We'll go out and get on a dirt road, and when you get on that dirt road, you switch from one side of that dirt road to the other side of that dirt road. You know, I'll get the horse to the point to where I can just put my leg on him and step over to the other side of that dirt road. Then just as soon as he hits the other side of that dirt road, I'll put my leg back on him and we'll go back to the other side. You know, I was doing this with a horse one time, and a fellow that was riding with me, riding behind me, guess he watched for a while and he said, you know, is that horse you own drunk? I just kind of laughed and said, well, he might be, but we hadn't had anything yet. Now, so getting this horse, good. You saw me getting her to give to the bit by doing nothing but widening my hands out, kind of curling my fingers over to make contact with the corners of the mouth. Now, this time she's waiting. Something else has got her focus. You can tell. Now, I'm going to bring her focus back to me, and the nose went down. Now, the way that I brought her focus back to me was with my left leg. It kind of reminded her, hey, I'm up here. Now, let's see what she does if I spread these hands now and I've made contact. Okay? And she's still, now. And I did it again with my left leg. So, understanding, good. And she was watching me a little bit better that time. Now, you know, this mare, when she and I first started working, standing around like this wasn't part of her vocabulary. And you know, Since then, she started learning, how to stand still, how to wait. Now, and if she does say she wants to move, well, I'm going to say, well, that's a great idea because we need to practice doing diagonals. Now, and we're fixing to do a little bit of riding. And I'm going to work more with my legs on this horse and support when I need it. Good. Now I'm fixing to ask her to pick her head up a little bit. Good. Now, we're also working on neck rein a little bit. Now, I'm fixing to set down. She slowed down a little bit, but she hadn't actually come to a stop. So what I'm fixing to do is I'm just going to drop one rein and bend. At the same time that I bend, I relax my legs so that I'm not driving her. Now, and turn loose. Now, step back. Okay. Now let's walk forward. Good. Good girl. Now, good for you. Now, I'm fixing to set down. This mare, she doesn't really know, so I'll put a little pressure on. Step her back. I'm going to ask her to walk off to the left. Now, I'm fixing to set down. With this mare, you have to make a little contact right now because she doesn't understand the feel of the whoa for whoa. What she expects is that contact, okay? But, good. I would like for her to get to the point to where when I quit, she quits. Now, and to offer her a little something, I sit down, raise my toe up in my boot. You can see her slow down. Now I'm fixing to do the one rein stop. Now I'll relax everything. And we'll bend. Now we'll walk off. And I'm fixing to set down. If you notice that time, she actually started thinking about it. We didn't go very far. But she actually started thinking about it. Now, we're fixing to walk off. We make a left-hand turn. And set down, toe up, heel down. She slowed down. Now I'm fixing to do the one rein stop. Now, one of the things that I see people all the time talking about the one range stop, the one range stop. The one range stop's a great tool, but there's three parts to that one range stop. Part number one is that you bend this horse's head. Part number two is that when you bend this head, you relax your legs. Even be a good idea to exhale. Because if you don't relax your legs, you're going to just keep moving this horse around in a circle. And I always tell people, especially if you're dealing with a horse that's running away, or that's really serious about trying to get away from something. And this is the third and the most important part of that one rein stop. And what that is whatever you do, don't turn that rein loose until you see that this horse's mind is back with you. Because if you turn that rein loose before this horse's mind is back with you, you're just off on another trot or on another go. So make certain that you sit there, relax, and make certain that the horse's mind is back with you before you turn those reins loose. Now, when you start I see you. Understanding a few things, okay? And understanding, number one, how these reins work. When you get ready to do something, all right, you get ready to do something, so you tell your mind to do something with these reins. So you pick up the reins and start to do something with those reins, and that message travels down this rein to that bit into that horse's mouth, and then once it gets in that mouth, well, then it sends a message up to the horse's mind. Okay? And if you've done your work properly and the horse is okay with everything that you're doing, well, then you accomplish what you set out to accomplish. Okay? Now, if the horse picks up that bit and starts doing stuff with that bit, well, then that message works in reverse. All right? And starts in the horse's mind. He picks up and takes control through the bit. That message runs right back up through the mind, or through the reins, into your mind. And you have to respond accordingly. And you'll find out just how quick things can happen. You know, now, when you start doing right here, when I pick up on this rein, that bit slides through this horse's mouth, and it makes pressure on the left side of this horse's face, and she bends her head to me. Now, when I pick up on this rein, that bit slides through this horse's mouth, puts pressure on the right side of her mouth, and she bends her head this direction. You know. Now, when you start understanding how all this works and what have you, well, then you can develop everything that you need to be able to become a rider. And there's a whole lot of difference between being a rider and being a passenger. Now, right now, I'm fixing to ask this mare to turn to the left. Now, she's thinking left a little bit, so we're fixing to go back right. One of the things that I look for in a horse, and one of the things that I want to do, especially when I'm starting a young horse, is what I want to do is teach this horse to keep their head in the center. So if I'm riding a young horse and he looks off over there somewhere, he looks to the right, I'll make a left-hand turn. If he looks to the left, I'll make a right-hand turn. What I want this horse to learn to do is to keep his head right here in the middle. Okay? Because once the horse learns to keep his head right there in the middle and he learns to cut his eyes, well, then you can go left, you can go right, you can go back, you can go forward. You know. So you can go anywhere that you want to do. Plus the idea, right now this mare's looking at cows over here, and I moved my right leg a little bit and brought her focus back over this way. Okay? And something else that I tell people is the bad thing about wanting your horse to pay attention is that it requires that you pay attention. Well, that's a horrible thing. You know. Don't tell me that I've got to do something in order to be able to get along with this creature and in order to be able to accomplish what I would like to accomplish. Now, right now I'm fixing to ask this mare to step over, and step over. Okay? Now, as we start doing within this mare right now, that actually took a little less to get stopped. She said, well, right there's a mountain block. You know. But we're going to work a lot more on shoulder yields and hips moving over, shoulders moving over, and getting this horse right there. When I picked that set of reins up, she was starting to think, okay, he's fixing to ask me to back up. Now I'll use this leg a little bit, and she said, no, I'll move forward. Now I'm going to shorten these reins. Pick this left foot up and set it back. Now the right, now the left. Good. Now, watch her. The last thing she and I was doing was backing up. So just as soon as I picked those reins up, boom, she went right to it again. Now, I think I've spent about enough time up here today. Okay. Now, you ever heard the old saying, high hands, high-headed horse? Okay. Not if you've taught them to give to the bit.